Good day everyone, I am Dan Michael Biton and I will be continuing the discussion about human influence and on animals. But we've already discussed about this in our face-to-face discussion, so I'm just going to give you a quick overview about what we have discussed. First, we discussed about the domestication of animals, by which domestication is the process of adapting wild plants and animals for human use. But since we focus more on the side of animals, then that is what we have discussed. And there are actually three major categories of domestication: companion, food consumption, and labor draft. And because of this domestication, our actions have led to the dispersal and invasion of animals. We discussed about dispersals, which is an ecological process that involves the movement of an individual or multiple individuals away from the population in which they were born. And there are two types of dispersals or introduction, and these are deliberate introductions and accidental introductions. The deliberate introductions are what we considered as the intentional transportation by. Meanwhile, the accidental introduction is the unintentional transportation of animal species. Now, these introductions actually caused desertification. Now, what is desertification? It is the process by which fertile lands become desert-like. And we also discussed about the cycles of regional invasions and moved on to our human influence on the expansion of animal populations. It cannot be denied that while we often focus on how animal activities negatively impact wildlife, there are also instances where human actions inadvertently or intentionally favor the expansion of certain animal populations, one of which is the suburban development. The example that was given to us, or that we discussed in our face-to-face discussion, was the development or the constructions of zoos, by which certain endangered species were given special health care, thus giving them the chance to have longer lives and even possibly expand their population. However, it cannot be denied that most human activities give off negative impacts or influence to animal populations, one of which is biological control. It is a method of pest management that utilizes natural predators, parasites, or pathogens to regulate pest populations. Although it might seem to have positive effect on the animal population because it reduces the reliance on synthetic pesticides, it motivates the animal instincts of certain animals, making them devour the less powerful animal populations. And if this method is not being controlled, then it could lead to the destruction of balance within the ecosystem. Now, second one is the game cropping. It is a regulated hunting and harvesting of wild animals for commercial purposes. This also motivates most human to hunt wild animals for the purpose of these commercial products, some of which are horns from rhinos and furs from wild animals such as tiger, lion, and even bears, for example. So this type of regulation really gives off negative impact to the animal population. Next is climate change driven by activities such as fossil fuel combustion or the burning of fossil fuels. It poses a significant threat to animal populations because it actually also motivates humans to keep on hunting animals and if for instance humans see some fossils, they would use them for certain purposes, most likely purposes that would give negative impacts to the animal population. It emphasizes the selfishness of human beings for the purpose of our own survival, or not just our survival, even for our own entertainment. Now, there are also certain causes of animal contractions and decline. The first one is pollution. Now, climate change driven by pollution is one of the major threats to the animal populations. Human activities, while causing animal population declines, can also have significant impacts on their contraction and decline through pollution. Because while initial killings for subsistence and commerce are a factor, many animal population declines occur indirectly due to pollution. Pollution that are mostly caused by us humans. Now, one way of the occurrence of pollution is the pollution that can be observed on water economics or in water economy. We humans often forget to segregate waste, and because of our negligence, we throw our waste anywhere. And most of the time, we throw our trashes on oceanic bodies, by which it disrupts the peace and order within the aquatic or marine animals. One major concern is the use of veterinary drugs and pesticides, which can have unintended consequences for wildlife. For instance, some pesticides that have been linked to dramatic decline in bumblebee and honeybee populations worldwide, and because of the usage of these pesticides, it endangered certain species of animals and even led to their extinction, just because of our usage of veterinary drugs and pesticides, because for the certain purposes of our own protection, not minding that we are also damaging the balance of the ecosystem. Now, all spills are particularly devastating for marine and coastal animals, especially for seabirds, whose feathers become clogged by oil the moment that they dive on the water trying to hunt for their survival. While oil degrades over time, the presence of these oil spills still have effects on the survival of certain species. Next is coral reef destruction that is often caused by illegal fishing. Because of the usage of dynamites just to catch huge number of fishes, this also has negative impacts to the aquatic marine animals, more specifically for the destruction of their homes such as the coral reefs. Next, the runoff from land. Runoff from land pertains to the movement of water from the land surface. Although it might not seem to be caused by humans, our ways for controlling the amount of grasses found on the land often has certain negative impacts for the surface of the land. Water runoff can be caused by rains, although it might seem normal or it might seem as a natural phenomenon. Because of our ways of controlling the amount of grasses in our lands, then there won't be enough grass to absorb the amount of water caused by rains, thus leading to soil erosion. As for the industrial air pollution that is caused by huge infrastructures, it disrupts the biodiversity of flying animals or animals such as birds, since it pollutes the air that they take, not just those animals but also us, and also it can lead to the occurrence of global warming if not regulated properly. Next up is the soil erosion. As I have said earlier, it is connected somehow on the runoff from land, which our ways of controlling the grasses, or not just the grasses, our ways of controlling animals are giving negative impacts on our own environment because of the overpopulation of the animals that we graze. Then the soil in our environment or in our community will not have the enough nutrients needed to withstand the amount of water or the amount of moist that is given to the land. Next, we move on to the habitat change and animal decline. Human-induced habitat changes have profoundly impacted animal populations, leading to widespread of contractions and declines. The loss of natural ranges is a significant consequence of those changes. For example, the removal of essential habitats for many British bird species has led to a decline in bird number and diversity. Also, agricultural infestation, with its focus on monocultures and the use of herbicides and fertilizers, this also has negative effects on the farmland or the bird populations. Other habitats such as grasslands have been significantly altered by agricultural changes, leading to reduction in botanical diversity. The replacement of natural oak-dominated woodlands with other tree species or monocultures has further fragmented and degraded the habitats of the wildlife animals. Globally, the loss of wetlands includes marshes, bogs, swamps, and fens is a major concern. These habitats are crucial for numerous species, and their decline is driven by various factors including drainage, filling, pest removal, urbanization, pollution. Now, the consequences of these habitat changes are far-reaching, impacting animal populations through loss of food sources, nesting sites, and shelter, often leading to the contractions and declines in species diversity. Addressing these issues requires a shift towards sustainable land management. It needs practices that has the aim to preserve and restore natural habitats, ensuring the long-term survival of animal populations. So, with that, I end my discussion. session, but before that, I would like to remind all of us to keep in mind that we are not the only living organisms within the Earth's surface. The stations or the results or the actions that we do that can lead to extinctions to disrupt the balance of our environment, thus in the worst case leads to certain devastations that we somehow have caused. So let us be mindful of the environment around us, not just for ourselves, but also for the other species living with us. Because we, as what I've said, we are not the only organisms living within this planet. We should learn to respect and value other populations, other species, for us to fully or to successfully live on the surface of the earth, all in the presence or all on the circle of biodiversity. So that would be all, and thank you for listening.
Hello there, folks. Today I will be discussing about the influence on animals. It could be positive or negative. As we all know, animals is the source of our food, but it also depends because there are animals that are not edible, and so as the plants. But the question is that, in what ways does the human have impeded the animal growth? But before anything else, let me ask you this question. Do you have animals in your home? Like cats and dogs? If yes, then do you take good care of them? My name is Angelo Estrosa, and I am your reporter for today. So for today, I will be discussing the continuation of Kuya Dan's previous topic, which revolves also to the animals. But my topic for today is all about the influence on humans. And we all know that humans are the great contributor to how these animals or how the animals have greatly affected due to our human-made activities like deforestation, industrialization, and etc. So without further ado, let's delve into the subtopics of the influence on animals. First on the list are the other causes of animal decline, which are hunting, poaching, trapping, industrialization, and hybridization. First on the list is hunting. Hunting is defined as the activity or sport of chasing or searching for wild animals or birds with the intention of killing or catching them. As we all know, Philippines is one of the 17 mega-diverse countries in the world because of its exceptionally rich, diverse, and endemic species. But hunting, it may be in a form of recreational hunting or the intention of killing animal just for fun, then it is not right or it is not just to kill an animal, because killing animal is just like killing a human, because both are essential in sustaining our biodiversity. Speaking of being essential, we are not really that essential to the cycle of our planet, because if we would go all extinct at once, then I think it is far better because it would give the planet the regeneration that it needs. One key example of this hunting is the hunting of the tamaraw or Bubalus mindorensis. It is called Bubalus mindorensis because tamaraws are mostly dominant or can be found in the province of Mindoro. But throughout the nick of time, there are supposedly 10,000 tamaraws living in Mindoro. But due to human activities and in the recent counting, there were only 335 tamaros left. This animal is of importance for the Philippines because according to my research is that the tamaraw is the only wild cattle that can be found in the Mindoro or in the province of Mindoro. Additionally, the hunting or the exploitative fishing of us humans also contributes to the animal decline, especially with the aquatic organisms that can be found in the marine or either it is from the fresh waters. According to the data that each year or annually there are 90 million or over 90 million tons of fish that is equivalent to 15,000 tons of elephants, if I'm not mistaken, were caught each year. We should also let our fishes to reproduce because it will give them time to regenerate or to grow their own kind. Yes, fish are one source of our food. Therefore, we should also consider catching them in an eco-friendly way, like avoiding the use of dynamites, large fish nets, and etc. And the removal of fish, especially the herbivores, can enable the algal blooms to develop catastrophically. One example of fish shortage in our locality is the fish ilak, and we call them ilak. Yes, it is much like a flatfish but only bigger, and its scales are intact. It is suitable for grilling and frying when cooked. It has a rich amount of fish meat, but they are only seasonal, as locals would fish for them in the fourth quarter of the year as they have already matured and are ready to be harvested. Another fish on the list is the parrotfish, or also known as mulmul in the vernacular language. Though there are 67 species of parrotfish around the world, it is also one of the fishes that are caught seasonally, much like the ilak. Especially that in the Indo-Pacific Ocean, it is starting to decline. I would also mention whaling, especially since the Russians and the Japanese have practiced this act since the 1980s. However, most countries nowadays have banned whaling. Whales are said to be the largest animal or mammal to ever roam or to ever exist in this modern period, and they should not be hunted. When a whale dies naturally, it provides an important resource for other animals, and it is also becomes a part of the new ecosystem. Next on the list is poaching. Poaching is the illegal shooting, trapping, or taking of game fish or plants from private places that such acts were forbidden. Examples of poaching are the poaching of the African black rhinoceros or the Diceros bicornis and the African elephant or the Loxodonta cyclotis. Roughly, according to statistics in the year 1900s, there were 70,000 African black rhinos on the wild and only 2,410 were left in the year 2004. Also, the African elephants had a population around 3 to 6 million in the year 1930s and dropped to 600,000 10 years later. The primary cause of poaching is the separation of ivory that can be found in these two animals. They are considered valuable, especially since they were sold at a high price in the black market, and they would cost millions of dollars when sold. Not just them, but also the other animals, especially the tigers and the seals, in which their skins were used as accessories and clothing for human use. Trapping is the method that is used when trapping wildlife animals, and humans used devices, specifically those devices that restrains these animals from moving. And trapping is also brutal because when these animals are trapped, then there is no need for continual human presence. Again, this is far more inhumane than the zoo itself, because in zoo, wild animals or the wildlife animals were taken care of by the people and are sampled, especially the endangered species or the endangered animals, and they were used to be conserved and to be revived once more. Examples of these conservation organizations are the following: the Nature Conservancy or the TNC, the Conservation International or the CI, the Wildlife Conservation Society or the WCS, and the Worldwide Fund for Nature or the WWFN. The second to the last cause of animal decline is industrialization. This is the activity where the humans poses a threat to the biodiversity, like putting up buildings, widening of roads, and etc. Vehicles and roads are another threat, as most of the vehicles are smoke belching, and expansion of roads may cause pollution or pollutants. And this also means that the expansion of roads would influence the humans to cut down or to cut more trees in the making. Roads affect the abiotic and biotic factors and its neighboring ecosystems, again through pollution or the pollutants coming from these activities or from these machineries. Again, just like the cars and the factories or the widening of roads. Last cause of the animal decline is the hybridization. What is hybridization? Hybridization is the introduction of new species or animals. I will be emphasizing animals since my topic is all about the influence on animals. I would want to highlight that hybridization is more common to aquatic animals and other vertebrate animals, due in part to frequent habitat overlap between the very genetically similar species and comparatively indiscriminate reproductive behavior. As you can see on the PowerPoint slide, there are different crossbreed animals, or should I say hybrid animals. So I won't be reading them verbatimly, as it is already self-explanatory that hybridization is the introduction of new animal species. So let us transition to the next subtopic of the influence on animals, which is the animal extinction in the prehistoric times. When we say prehistoric, it happened on the primitive days of the human existence. Between 50,000 years ago to 10,000 years, most large animals or specifically the mammals, became extinct everywhere except in Africa. The prehistoric times were divided into two periods. First is the late Pleistocene era and second is the Holocene period. First is the late Pleistocene extinctions. Big mammals were caused by the rapid changes in the Earth's climate, and also it is where the last glacial happened. Since the Pleistocene age is the start of the Ice Age, there was a drastic change in the Earth's climate, making it difficult for the animals to thrive, and also this caused a major extinction. Animals that followed, or animals that were extinct at that time, includes the mammoth, the megalonyx, the short-faced bears, the saber-toothed cats, and the woolly rhinoceros. The next period that was followed by the late Pleistocene period is the Holocene period. So this period is after the late Pleistocene period where the extinctions continued. The Holocene period is the start of the domestication of animals for human use. So this caused an imbalanced system on Earth, especially in the oceanic islands of Eastern and Pacific Oceans. The native flora, which means the plants, and the fauna, which means the animals, were also declined. Again, the clearing of the trees or the deforestation is the huge factor on why these events have happened in the first place. So the next subtopic is the anthropogenic interpretation of animal decline. So there are 5 interpretations of animal decline in the book. So first, the human arrival and extinction timing. Second is the efficient hunters. Third is the animal's tameness. Fourth is the human competition and predation. And lastly, the impact of human activity on large mammal extinction. So the first one is the human arrival and extinction timing. So the extinction of megafauna in North America coincides with the arrival of humans equipped with advanced hunting tools, like for example, the Clovis blades, which were used to kill large animals or mammals around 13,800 to 11,400 years ago. So the mammoth is a prime example in North America that the mammoths coincided with the human arrival, and the human arrival is the cause of their extinction. And the Clovis blade or the hunting tools played a significant role to their extinction. The second one is the efficient hunters. In Europe, especially in the Solutra France, where remains of over 100,000 horses have been found, indicating the mass hunting. The European bison is also an example of the efficiency of the Paleolithic hunters. Sites like Solutra France showcase an evidence of the large-scale hunting, and the mass killing of the 100,000 horses means that the human techniques at that time, or the human hunting, could potentially be the significant factor on why these animals have drastically lessened, or there is a decline in the animals' populations. The third one is the animal tameness. Animal tameness means that many animals, especially those animals that are unfamiliar with humans, initially lacked fear and were easily hunted. And it would also take time for those animals to adapt and to learn on how to escape from the human captivity. On islands like the New Zealand, specifically the moa, or the large flightless bird, initially showed fear and was hunted up until to its extinction, and there are no exposure to human predators, and from that it also gave them the time, or it gave them the privilege, or the human targeted them that easily. And that marks also to the first Polynesian settlers who hunted them for extinction within a few centuries. The fourth one is the human competition and predation. So this means that humans not only hunted for those animals, but they may have also competed with them for resources. For example, the dingo in Australia, which was present around the 4,000 years ago, led to the decreased population and competition of the native species like the Tasmanian tiger or the thylacine that went extinct due to the hunting of those top predators or the dingoes in Australia. And the last but not the least is the impact of human activity on large mammal extinction. So the large mammal extinction means that those large animals are more vulnerable to extinction. An example of this is the glyptodon. It is a large animal that is an armadillo-like in South America that serves as an example of how large size mammals or animals are more vulnerable to human hunters. Similarly, the American mastodon, a relative of the elephant, may also have faced the extinction or the same fate that the glyptodon has faced. And this is due to their large size that when hunters would hunt for them, then they wouldn't be able to run faster, unlike those average size animals that can easily outrun those hunters. So the next subtopic is the European megafauna demise. So most of the animals that once thrived during the Pleistocene period or the Pleistocene epoch were animals that were acclimatized to the cold weather. This includes the mammoths, the woolly rhinoceros, the musk ox, and the steppe bison. But later in those years, or the late Pleistocene era, their population suddenly dropped or shifted slowly and began to be wiped. It's because of the certain causes like the climate change and due to the extreme heat or the melting of the ice leading to their great fall. Now let's go on to the second to the last subtopic, which are the modern extinctions. So let's have this locally. Here are the lists of extinct animals in the Philippines in the modern age. The Philippines has a high number of animal species and biodiversity, and it is considered one of the global biodiversity hotspots in the world. According to the International Union for Conservation of Natures, or also known as the IUCN, here are the red lists. So there are red lists. There are roughly 59 critically endangered and 113 endangered animals in this region, or in the region that is referred to the Philippines itself. So there are several extinct animals that once lived in the Philippines. So here are the examples of those extinct animals. So below are the some examples of these animals. Firstly is the Elaphas beari, or also known as the dwarf elephant species. Second is the Sus sabifrons, also known as the Cebu wart pigs, that were declared extinct during the year 2000. Third is the Megalochales sondari, also known as Palawan giant tortoise, went extinct during the Pleistocene epoch. And lastly is the Cebeloquerus cagayanensis, a species of boar that lived during the Pleistocene epoch. So the last topic that I will be discussing are the 9 ecological or life history traits. But before I'm going to finish my report is that there will be a question that I will be asking after I finish the report itself. And the winner or the first one that can answer the question that I will be asking in the comment section below will receive a prize, a 1 kilo of rice and a 1 can of beef loaf. So much for that. The first one is rarity. When we say rarity, then okay, those are the animals that have a very low population, and an example of this is the Philippine eagle or the Pethecophaga jefferyi. Is an example of a rare species. Its low population makes it rare or vulnerable to extinction, and it is also due to the habitat fragmentation. So fragmentation refers to the fragments of the forest to which the animals that are living in that kind of biodiversity or ecosystem have disrupted or are somehow forced to migrate to other places, also because of certain human activities like deforestation, illegal logging, the anthropogenic use of fire, and etc. So again, going back to the rare or the rarity is that the Philippine eagle is vulnerable to extinctions because the Philippine eagle is a rare species, and with fewer animals, then the species is less likely to recover from disturbances, because fragmentation means that it's the disturbance of the habitat because of certain human influences or human activities. Just like again, the primary cause or the primary factor of such event is the deforestation. Second is the dispersal ability. Dispersal ability means that the animal has a strong dispersal activity, means that from the word disperse, can move from one place to another. And one example of this is the Palawan flying fox or the Acerodon leucotis, has a strong dispersal abilities. Again, when we say dispersal, then this animal or this kind of animal is flexible, which means that this animal can easily transfer from one location to another. So it allows the form of migration between forest fragments in Palawan. This also helps to maintain its population in fragmented habitats. So even if these animals are fragmented, then it would also help them maintain their population, reducing the risks of extinction compared to the species with poorer dispersal abilities. Because as we all know, the Palawan flying fox have a greater advantage compared to those animals that are flightless. Third is the degree of specialization. Degree of specialization means means that it is an ecological specialist, that the animal is a ecological specialist. A great example of this is the Philippine tarsier, also known as Carlito siricta, is an ecological specialist, relying heavily on dense forest undergrowth for shelter and insects for food. As we can observe in Bohol, that most of the tarsiers depend on the shelter, and they are located on one location, and from that they are more vulnerable to extinction. And since it is also due to their specialization, tarsiers again are vulnerable to habitat loss and fragmentation, making them more prone or susceptible to population decline. So the fourth ecological or life history trait is the niche location. Niche location means that the animal has a greater coping ability when it was tested by the fragmentation itself. A concrete example of this is the Philippine cobra, or also known as Naha philippinensis, can be found in agricultural fields and also forests. Its ability to thrive in the edge habitat or the forest to agriculture interfaces allows it to cope with habitat fragmentation better than species restricted to dense forest interiors. So it has a greater ability or a greater chance for survival. The fifth one is the population variability. Population variability means that the animal experiences significant population fluctuations. Fluctuations means that it is the deviations or of the value of an observable average or an observable from its average. So a great example of this is the Visayan warty pig, or also known as Sus semifrons, which experiences population fluctuations. So due to the habitat loss and hunting, then these fluctuations make the species, or especially the Visayan warty pig, vulnerable to extinction, as its population might fall below on a critical threshold. Again, these fluctuations may, these fluctuations make the species more vulnerable to extinctions, as its population may fall below a critical threshold. The next one is the trophic status. A great example of this is the tamaraw, or the Bubalus pindurensis, is a herbivore cattle and occupies a lower trophic level compared to other predators. In contrast, apex predators such as the Philippine eagle are more vulnerable to extinction. It's because these top predators, or the apex predators, rely on a large amount of foods, stable populations of prey, and their populations are naturally smaller due to their position as the top predators. The seventh one is the adult survival rate, which means that an animal that has a low adult survival is more vulnerable to extinction. An example of this is the hawksbill turtle, or the Eretmocheles imbricata. And this animal is vulnerable due to the following factors, like the poaching, egg collection, and the loss of nesting sites. These low survival rates makes the species more susceptible to extinction, especially when population recovery is low. So the seventh one is the longevity. Longevity is an example of this is the dugong. dugong, which has a scientific name of dugong dugon, long-lived mammals in the Philippines. And from this, or should I say that this mammal that is found in the Philippines is part of the longevity because it gives them protection, and that protection means that they are not that vulnerable when it comes to extinction, and they have more opportunities to reproduce even if their population declines temporarily. So the last but not the least is the intrinsic rate of population increase. So this means that an animal has an intrinsic rate or an increasing rate when it comes to their reproduction. A great example of this is the Philippine toad, or also known as the Angelo Phrynos philippinicus. So this means that this animal has a great reproductive rate, allowing it to reproduce faster, making it not so vulnerable to extinction, and they are adaptable to environmental disturbances. They are contrast to the Philippine eagle, as the Philippine eagle is a top predator, which means it is capable, or no, it is less capable of rapid population recovery.
Now, before we part and end this discussion, we will leave you with a task that you will need to do. It is called Guess the Gibberish. Now, your task is to solve this gibberish puzzle and form the word intended from the scrambled words. Now, leave your answers down below and we will comment on whether the answers that you have given are right or wrong. Now, that's all, and thank you for listening.
And that's it for today. Again, I am Angelo Estrosa. Don't forget to like, share, and comment down below. So again, my report is about the animal decline. So if you have any questions or any queries or violent reactions, just comment down on the comment box below. Again, see you next time for another lesson. Ta-ta! Tata!